I think one of the most painful realizations intelligent people eventually confront is this: potential means nothing. And I purposely say intelligent people because I want to include myself in that because I see myself as intelligent. And that has been bugging me for a long time because what is the point of intelligence if it cannot solve your problems? So I include myself in that statement because I am aggressively committed this year to doing things and not just being someone with potential. And I'm not motivated, I am committed, if that makes sense. And that commitment comes from that statement that I said, that a painful realization that I had and I had to confront is that potential means nothing. Or perhaps more accurately, unrealized potential means nothing. Because the world does not reward what you could have been, it rewards what you built, what you finished, what you contributed to. And that's very difficult for intelligent people, especially, and I'll explain why. Because intelligent people often become emotionally attached to the idea of themselves, not who they are, the idea of themselves as the intelligent person with potential. The writer I could have become, the business I could build, the body I could have, the life I know I'm capable of, but I'm not living. And as long as those things remain unfinished, the fantasy stays alive, right? As long as you addicted to the idea of yourself, the fantasy is alive. And that's the trap because you stay in the fantasy and things remain unfinished. Because unfinished potential is psychologically seductive. And I'm speaking about this firsthand. It allows a person to secretly believe I could become extraordinary without ever needing to prove it, without ever facing the terrifying process of testing that belief against reality. You live in the fantasy. I could become extraordinary. I could. But living in the fantasy allows you never to actually face the terrifying process of testing that belief against reality. And that's why completion is scary, because completion removes imagination and it replaces it with the truth. The truth is, don't tell us what you could do. What have you done? What are you doing? The truth is, a project can fail, a business can struggle, an idea can be criticized, a life can be disappointing. But the fantasy remains perfect, and that's why it's so seductive. It's never tested. The fantasy remains untouched, so it's safe. And that's why many intelligent people become chronic starters. Because starting gives emotional excitement. You get to experience the possibility, the hope, the identity, but finishing, finishing demands confrontation. Confrontation with your discipline, your fear, your inconsistency, your excuses, your actual level of commitment. Finishing demands confronting who you are, what have you done. And the brutal truth is that many people are addicted to the potential because potential protects the ego. And as long as you never fully commit, you never fully risk discovering the truth about yourself. So we stay in preparation mode for years, learning, planning, thinking, talking, imagining, I could. I'm intelligent, remember, I could. And while you're doing all those things, life is quietly passing by. Carl Jung once said that he believes human beings suffer deeply when they abandon parts of themselves. And I think that's part of the issue here. I think many people feel exhausted, something we've talked about this week, not because they're working too hard, but because they're carrying unlived lives of themselves inside. They're exhausted not because they're working too hard, but because they're carrying unlived lives inside them. The artist who became practical, the creator who became acceptable, the builder who became comfortable. And over time, the gap between between who a person is, rather, and who they know they could become, starts creating quiet pain. Not dramatic pain, the more dangerous kind. The quiet pain that's very easy to live with. The feeling that your life is only partially yours. That feeling doesn't disappear through motivation, watching videos, starting projects. It disappears through construction. It disappears through finishing, through building, finishing, committing, because reality only changes once ideas become embodied. A vision that never leaves your mind changes nothing. An unwritten book teaches nobody. An unlived purpose serves nobody. Potential is not power. Translated reality is power. Translating potential into action. Translating potential into a finished product. I constantly look at myself and say, I want to be the man my bloodline thanks God for. I want my bloodline to look back and say, thank God he was born. That was the guy. Great, but only recently have I actually started asking and understanding what that actually requires. Not the potential of that, but actually doing that. What does that require? And it's not about intelligence, ambition, perception. It requires construction. It requires actually doing it. A man changes his bloodline through sustained construction over time, right? Building systems, building people, building wealth, building wisdom, building stability, building meaning. And construction requires something that most intelligent people resist, which is completion. Because completion is adulthood. Unfinished people remain trapped in self concept. Finished people enter reality. Finished people don't look at what could be, they look at what is. And I think the question for me is no longer asking myself, am I special? The real question is, what am I building that proves it?